Breathe deep, people. Breathe deep. Use the force. Positive mental attitude. Let's face this shit. So, I do believe that maybe it would help us all if we could take a second when we read something. Breathe. Go back. Read it again. Let's make sure we're reading the right thing, because twice this morning, one on Facebook, one on Instagram, my words were taken totally out of context. On the Facebook side, it was scan reading, I believe, led to a misread, and the person thought I had said or implied something of which I hadn't. And on Instagram, similar thing, the guy had just misread what I said. Now, the guy on Instagram who has brown skin, I'm going to say now, I am doing my best not to use the terms black and white when talking about people's appearance. Brown skin's fine, that's a real observation. We're pinky beige, motherfucker. That's white, that's black. None of us are either of them. The only people that come close to black skin is like Somalians, and they tend to glow. Some of them almost look like they've got a bit of a blue tinge. They're so healthy, their skin's so vibrant. It's beautiful. Anyway, the reason why I don't want to use these terms is because the two terms I pre-mentioned are legal made terms in somewhere around the mid-late 1700s, I believe, and it was basically for inequality and slavery. The masters needed to justify their actions. So, if we live in the belly of the beast, our slavery is very different to those that are on the outskirts of the empire. And I say this as an informed person who has taken a lot of time to objectively look at history. I want progression. I want a better society, and I think most of us do, really. It's just we're getting caught on our views, because it's not caught on information. We're not being caught on information here, we're being caught on our views. In England, you know, all over the world, we've been taught these subtle racisms, if that's even a word. My point of making this video is that I believe now more than ever we need to be objective and informed and compassionate towards others. Put ourselves, our personal beliefs and just put ourselves and our personal beliefs to the side and objectively look at the information and look at the past. You know, go back to the time of Kemet, which was Egypt. You know, Kemet was on like its 25th or 28th dynasty, and a dynasty there would have lasted in between, like, I think it was like 500 years and 3,500 years. They were on their 25th dynasty when the Greeks were becoming great. And the really funny thing is that the Greek scholars went to some of the first African schools to learn their knowledge. So, as we go through our history, for all of those that want to defend the flag, defend what's British, surely we need to be objective as to what that was. My granddad went to war. I am not insensitive to the people, I am highly insensitive to the institutions that were founded by racism, that were founded by white supremacy. You cannot forget that the founding fathers of both America, Australia and England were white supremacists. If you want to ignore that information, cool, but man, that means you're just blindly believing and arguing for the sake of it. I don't want to argue with anyone. I like conversations. I like it when we can chat about some stuff. I like it when people say things I didn't know. I like it when people tell me about something to do with what I'm talking about that I didn't know, that puts another twist on it. So, because I've been just looking for information, I done looked inside myself. I looked inside myself from a young age when I didn't fit in, because I needed to find out what was wrong with me. And what I discovered is there's not much wrong with any of us. We've been misled, mistaught and misinformed. So I'm not hating on any people. When you hear me talk about the police force, I'm not hating on the police officers. I'm hating on the institution that makes people blindly follow rules and enforce them. So it gets to that them and us. And how do we get that out of our language? How do we get out of going into a conversation just trying to prove a point? You know, I'm trying to like open out the conversation, right? How can we productively move forward? Well, it seems to me like we cannot productively move forward with the current hierarchical system we live within. So I have wanted that to change for many years. I've been speaking out on it. I've been speaking for some time, years. And pre me speaking with information, I was trying to spread positivity to try and help people get into themselves so that they'd ask the internal questions that would lead to the realisation of the hierarchy, the inequality and the suppression of our free will. So again, that is what I just said was initially based on observations that I made from a young age on society, and then later on I then got informed, which then filled out that view I had because it fucking cemented it. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's England, Australia, America, it's all full of fuckery in the past, and some of it is full of fuckery now. I mean, Australia is still treating Indigenous people with less than respect. And when I say Australia, I don't mean the individual people of Australia. I mean the institutions and those that blindly run them. So if you're the head of an institute, you are even more responsible for what information you're putting out. But I believe that we as people, me, John Scott, you, fill in the blank, have the responsibility with this social media, with this worldwide personal media platform, right? We're our own news station. And I just feel that asking questions is better than assuming, because like I've said, assume, A-S-S-U-M-E, ass, you, me. If you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Right, so let's not make asses of each other. That's what we need to do. Just take a second. Okay, this is not love and light. This is not what I wanted. Okay, this is anti-Britain. That's not what I want. This is anti whatever the fuck you think it is. It's not anti. I'm not anti. I'm pro. So I'm pro-life. I'm pro-human. I'm pro-people. And I think a lot of people are. But we get caught into them and us, right? I feel that people shouldn't be ripping down statues, and well, I feel they're fucking slave masters. Well, if you stand back and just go, let me be objective. No, not all the statues are slave masters. And yes, some of them are. But what most of them have in common is they're the figureheads of our societies, and they represent the past. And if you look objectively at history without the glorification stories, right? Because the royals have been romanticised. Alexander the Great was romanticised. The Romans were romanticised. The Greeks have been romanticised. Who's talking about the libraries of Alexandria? Thank you very much, by the way, to a particular someone who's way far in, who knows that I'd made a mistake on the Library of I said the Library of Alexander, and it was Alexandria, I believe. I think it was actually the feminine, which is very interesting because I do believe back then that there wasn't the inequality there is now. Because I truly believe, through looking into African history, which goes way deeper than slavery and way deeper than the Greeks, and looking at our own history, I say our own because I'm talking about Europe, because that's where I'm from. And when we look objectively at all these histories, if we're not buying into the romanticism and the glorification that justified us still needing these leaders and these rulers to protect us, then when we look objectively, we see stories that are less than ideal. And I would rather you went and had a look. So I'd also like it if you went and had a look at who the World Organisation is. Who started the World Organisation and who owns it? Because it's not a governing body. Or maybe it is, but it's privately owned. Like the World Central Bank, it's privately owned. Who owns them? That's a good question. Because maybe it might make you think twice about blindly following a flag. A government that isn't serving you. Like, it doesn't matter what skin you've got and where you're from in the world. The governments aren't serving us. Otherwise, we'd all be a lot different and feeling a lot different. We all know it. We all know it. God, before I started speaking out, I would speak to people now that just outright argue with me about that very point. And they wouldn't be arguing with me then. Funny things happen when you stand out and speak out and put your head on the chopping block. People really change. I'm not sure that they change, they're just reacting. We're taught to label, we're taught to box. We're taught all these things that now, in a time where we really need our wits about us, in a time where we really need to be objective, a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are. A lot of people are. I am certainly not anything special. I'm no one of a kind. This is just my preach. So, taking a breath and taking a moment is really important. 2 different posts I was interacting on this morning, I was misread and then in a light sense attacked, and that could have been avoided had each of them people breathed in, read properly, saw the context of what I'd said. You know, on Facebook, look at the actual post information I put so that you see the context of what I said and ask questions. So, breathe deep, folks. Take a minute and let's get through this. Okay? Peace. Use the force. Positive mental attitude.